Everyone, RemanX here, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Xmen team. You guys might have recently gotten Jubilee, and so you're assembling your squad, and you're trying to determine what the ISO, the best setup for ISO is, what T4s you want in the team, and realistically, what can they do? And we're going to start with something that's probably very obvious. They are the best mutant raid team. All 5 of them actually click together, and more importantly, the feedback I'm getting for those that are running the 1.1 raid, this team is pretty much the solution. So we're going to talk about the characters. We're going to talk about where they're available. Yeah, they're not. But more importantly, if you have them, if you have Jubilee, what to expect from the team. And let's get right into it. So you can see realistically, I built up the squad. If you're going to start doing 1.1, you may want a bigger Iceman and a bigger Kitty Pryde, just to survive the onslaught. But for right now, these guys can auto the raid. Now, the Striker Skirmisher combo in the Doom raid may seem to take a little bit longer, but it actually is important when we talk about the raid. So realistically, you guys are going to see the ISO recommendation. There's going to be one difference as Kitty Pryde matures, goes up in ISO levels, that we're gonna highlight here. But we're going to talk about the raids here and go right into the big difference here. So if you guys haven't taken a look at the slider, honestly, the only reason why we're making recommendations for 1.1 is even if you're not there, you do not want to have to change ISOs to accomplish it. And if you can accomplish the same thing with the end game ISO solution, you want to try to do that. And so we're going to talk about this. Realistically here, you can see that there's a 35% health, 700% damage, which is something to take note of. But more importantly, resistance, okay? So resistance is going to come down to something very important, and that's Skirmisher. So realistically, characters that we've been relying on to do debuffs will not be reliable. The resistance was already a lot higher in the raid than some other areas. It wasn't as bad as the .3 Greek raids. Still, the Skirmisher portion of this for Iceman, for Beast to be able to flip the debuffs, and for Jubilee to be able to land her blind are 100% vital for the 1.1 raid based on the feedback we've gotten. And these are folks with higher reds than myself. So we're going to be locking these in as the final recommendation. Now, Striker is very powerful, this bonus damage that he gets, and the fact that he can do extra health damage as a result of his own personal health. We're hoping we can get him to 3 at some point relatively soon to showcase his full power and potential. We're looking at Jubilee. So Jubilee, the same thing here with that Skirmisher. And we're going to go over the tier 4s as well. Her Skirmisher being able to actually land the blind is more important because she has a 100% chance in raids. So realistically, having her as Striker wasn't doing enough for a lot of folks. So then finally, Beast over here with Skirmisher. Now, there's a couple of different ideas about this, but the reason is you want him to assist, and when he assists, he does flip positive buffs into negative ones. And then the last piece of the puzzle is Iceman. Iceman is going to be key to land those slows. If he's not landing those slows, you're taking extra damage. More importantly, you'll have some clutch stuns from him if you actually have it. So these are realistically, if you're building this team for the end game, the ones you're going to want to build for. You can see I left Kitty Pryde out a little bit, and we're going to talk about Kitty Pryde. Now, Kitty Pryde is probably, she has a base healing ability, but the idea behind it is, as a healer, she's going to be doing that minor defense up, and that will be good enough to help give them a little extra sustain through the nodes. And because because her base focus is so low, even the Skirmisher probably won't help her land enough of the disrupts to make them matter, and you're going to be flipping most of them with Beast anyway. So the feedback I've gotten is they played around with a couple of different combos here, and the idea is having her as healer seems to work the best. Well, stay tuned. That this is one that's a little bit in flux. She may wind up being a Skirmisher to land the disrupt, but the idea of her as a healer with her passive heal isn't terrible. But stay tuned. There'll be more information coming through that, especially if bleeds are being applied and they're pretty deadly. So stay tuned. She's the only one potentially in flux, and probably one that I would say not to rush to max right now until you have to push the 1.1 raid. Skirmisher, Striker, or Healer, all good combos until you have to max her out for the raid. So realistically, we're going to talk about the actual T4s. If you start pushing endgame content, these guys are going to soak up a lot more T4s. But we're going to talk about the passive with the 100% chance to counterattack, and the reason why that's important is this: when he's taunting, stops the chain. All right, any character that doesn't get 100% chain chance when characters are have counter, he's going to stop them right in their tracks. Next thing we're going to talk about is his ult. His ult is a significant amount of damage. Now, the more times he is targeted, the more times he's charged, the faster he goes, the more damage he does. So that's something that was always a little bit of a problem with the way that we did the setup, was that he was taking less damage because they just weren't getting turns. But realistically, even on auto, it definitely does it. Now, Retaliation Laser is one that's up for debate, as well as the basic. These are two probably luxury T4s that will really enhance the team later on. We're going to talk about this. Her passive is absolutely essential. The bonus damage and the extra speed bar for Beast is going to be the clutch healing that you need to get it done. We're going to talk about the additional here. Remember, guys, this actually isn't labeled correctly. This is an additional speed bar. I believe it's 10 or 15% here. It isn't broken down in the actual description. That's something to be aware of. So her ult is also very valuable and is really good to help rewind time. It is part of the Doom killing ability that she has. Without that, you're not rewinding the speed bar on Doom. Then we're gonna get right into this with the Plasmoid party. It's definitely good on our whole team because you get it to all Astonishing Xmen. I do think there's some valuable here. This is a lot of damage throughput, so she can demand a lot of actual bonuses with the always apply blind. I think definitely. So she probably is somebody you want to max out. We'll talk about Beast here. So Beast with the mutant enhancement. Realistically, this was the regeneration. I do think that as an extra heal and an extra bonus is something that I think might be a luxury, but I found that when I was hitting auto through the raids, it definitely helped. And then always clearing 2 negative effects has been helpful, because a lot of the raid does things like disrupt, slows, and specifically blind. So having the ability to always remove 2 is kind of a big deal. There's definitely some other value there that you can do, but I don't recommend it. And then we're going to talk about the passive on Iceman. Is definitely with the damage reduction, and then we'll talk about her passive. And so one that's up for debate, and so I don't know that we're getting a lot of taunts, but I have a feeling that in the later raids, like the later Doom raids, you're going to see that this is taunting, and having her as a healer getting extra speed bar fill with characters that are taunting will be interesting, because you're definitely speeding her up to help with the assist heals and the minor defense up at level 3 blue. Stay tuned, more about her as we progress through this. I do think that she's the one that we rely on the least to actually do anything, because her focus is just too low to get it done. So T4s, Astonishing Xmen are the raid team to beat, to build for. Now, I will say that if you build Longshot and Shatterstart, they're going to be fine in Doom. If you're not rushing the content, there may be some more X Factor coming out soon. But the problem is, Jubilee, because of the fact that she is anchored for the legendary, and the X Factor is, I think I might have said X-Force. X Factor is, it's kind of a toss-up. So if you're building X Factor, you can probably do the Doom raid, but they aren't as effective, and be prepared to be slowed down compared to what other people who build the X-Men are doing. I've gotten this feedback. I want to say special thanks to and that is me from Pantsa Hulk. Give me some insight into the raids and talking me through some of the suggestions and really solidifying the ISO list here. So Skirmisher, because of the focus required to make sure that they function. Striker for the extra bonus damage. He has a stat machine. He's got a ton of health on his team. He's going to be able to get a nice bonus from the Striker. And we're going to be building that and showing that off down the road here. And then last but not least, a lot of people have been debating him as a healer because he's a support character. Just because a character heals doesn't mean they have to, especially like if we're looking at Infinity Watch. We'll see the difference we have based on the way they interact with their team. Something to always take into account. Remember, I do things so you don't have to. I've had my X-Men built up for a while. You guys asked me for a final video. Congratulations on unlocking Jubilee, and hopefully you can continue to bust through hard content with this team. It's what they were designed to do.